Stuart Pearce of Nottingham Forest will present his team to the royal party. Des Walker shaking hands there, Steve Chettle alongside him, fellow central defender. Gary Charles in there, Ian Wone, who we heard from earlier on, Gary Parker, Lee Glover, Nigel Clough, Gary Crosby, Steve Hodge, a substitute today, as indeed is Brian Laws, and the other Brian, Mr. Clough. Duchess of Kent will present the cup at the end of the afternoon. And she now meets the Tottenham Hotspur team. And Paul Gascoigne typically has a touch of something different there. David Howell shaking hands, that's Naeem, one of the substitutes, Justin Edinburgh, Paul Allen, Paul Walsh, the other Tottenham sub, Vinnie Samways, Gary Lineker, and a word there for the England captain, and indeed for the Tottenham Hotspur manager. And their Royal Highnesses have been introduced to all the main performers here today. And as the teams break and the flavour for this 110th Cup final builds up, let's take a final check on the two team lineups. Nottingham Forest, the semi-final team. At number 2, 21-year-old Gary Charles returns in place of the more experienced Brian Laws. At number 6, Roy Keane. At 19, the youngest player on duty today, gets in ahead of current England international Steve Hodge. Indeed, Laws and Hodge are the two subs. Lee Glover at number 10 is only 21. Ian Wone at number 11, in his first season of senior football, is 23, giving the Forest team a cherubic, choir boy look with an average age of 23 and a half. Spurs, by comparison, have an older side by about 2 years on average. At number 10, their only out-and-out striker, Gary Lineker, is the oldest man in the match at 30. One of those 5 midfield players has almost certainly been given the specific task of marking Nigel Clough. We shall see when the game starts. On the bench, as indeed they were for the semi-final here against Arsenal, it's the same team, the substitutes, Paul Walsh and Naeem. Two of the great leaders, these players. Pearce, something of a hero now in Nottingham. They've really taken to him over the last year or two. And Gary Mabbott, such a splendid image for a professional footballer. And the two teams sporting new kit today, made incidentally by the same manufacturer, and they've developed those Tottenham shorts that Bob Wilson was talking about, which are a throwback really to the 50s, I think. Perhaps Alf Ramsey and Bill Nicholson's time as a player. But here's one of the modern breed. Justin Edinburgh, just 21 years of age, the youngest player in the Tottenham side, didn't even start a league game until the 8th of December, which makes him even newer to a scene like this than Forest's Roy Keane, the Irishman who's made such enormous strides in this, his first season in top-grade football. Just before the kick-off, a chance for Trevor Brooking to have his say.
Well, let's just hope it's the sort of final we all expect. Two good footballing sides. Will it be the teamwork, passing habits of Forest, or perhaps the bit of individual flair from Spurs? We're just about to find out.
Again, the Wembley pitch looks in fine fettle. Spurs in white, going for a record 8th FA Cup win. Forest trying to do it for the first time for Brian Clough. Paul Allen wearing number 11, and it's Sedgley sliding it across, and I think we're going to see a role for David Howells, which we'll pick up in just a moment. That was Parker, and this is Stewart. Now, as Nigel Clough went forward there for the first time, the man tracking him is number 5, David Howells, and that may be a Terry Venable's tactical ploy, but that's certainly a tough first challenge, to say the least. And Gascoigne walks away, and the player on the ground is Gary Parker. A longer one this time, and there is Sedgley, and Lineker was in there, and it was hooked away by Chettle from behind the goalkeeper, and Sedgley has a shot. Cross by Vanden Hauwe, and that's floating a bit, and Crossley had his arms up, but the ball was already over before he made any contact. It's a goal kick. Don't think he touched it, actually. It was floating from Vanden Hauwe over the top, but he just put his arms up to make sure. Well, Glover. Oh, it's a good little ball. Gary Charles was well forward.
Definitely a fact. There's an injury there, Paul Gascoigne, who was the one who lunged for Gary Charles. Gary Charles, for me, could be very much a key player, because the way Howes is shadowing Clough, Spurs haven't got anyone out wide, and he can make these sort of runs here. Paul Gascoigne, I mean, it's a terrible tackle. I mean, you know, mistimed. He was never going to get the ball, and very rash, and he's hurt himself doing it. And it's not his strongest point. We've had two now bad challenges from him, although he's settled down, keeping possession in his normal manner, and he's enjoying the fact that he's not, in fact, got a man marker on him today.
To give Brian Clough's team the lead in the cup final. And what Gascoigne did in the semi-final against Arsenal, Pearce produces against Tottenham in the final. With the left foot, 16 minutes gone, Gascoigne is down. The Spurs fans rising to say farewell to Paul Gascoigne, and at this stage it may be farewell for all time. It seems a churlish thing to have to say when he's on a stretcher, but they may not see him again, and he is being carried off, and Naeem is on in his place as Lineker catches Chettle on the wrong side for a moment there. Following up here is Samways. That's Allen's touch, offside. Offside. Gary Lineker put the ball in the net, but the linesman on the near side is flagging. It won't stand. The Spurs fans thought they'd equalised, so did some of the players, but there was a flag, and it was up pretty sharpish too. This is Paul Allen who makes it possible. Now, well, if you're level, you're onside, and I thought when Allen actually played the ball, Lineker had a case for saying he was on. Keane. Well, Gary Crosby, I had to just remind myself, did score in the semi-final from precisely that position, the first goal against West Ham, so he could hardly be blamed for trying to put it past the keeper again. That's Samways, looking for Lineker. They need support, Tottenham here, coming up. Here is Samways again, taking over the main role in midfield. Naeem. Hit Chettle, Samways. Hits Chettle again, Naeem. David Howell's waiting in the area now as the cross comes in. Paul Allen!
Good save by Crossley, good build-up by Spurs. They had to hold it up because Gary Lineker broke for a while by himself. People joined, and eventually the cross came right over from Naeem, and Stuart Pearce just caught 3 or 4 yards inside him, and it was a good diving header.